Number 6, you could make either side 0. It's really up to you. I decided to make this side 0 because then I would have a positive 7x squared. That was my decision. It does not have to be that way. If you make the other side 0, that's okay. It's just less work in the long run to have 7x squared, and then subtract the 5x, we get minus 2x, and then plus 4. If you did it the other way, you'd have negative 7x squared plus 2x minus 4. Same numbers, just all the signs are different. And then when you do our song, Ethan? It's okay. It may not have as good of, like, it may be a little tone deaf. It's all right. So, x equals opposite b.
Plus or minus. Plus or minus square b squared minus 4x. We'll finish it up.
Over 2 egg. Hey, you are the one that wanted to hear him do it this whole time, so be supportive. All right, so now I'm going to simplify, and as I simplify, you guys just spent a bunch of time doing this. You should get 2 plus or minus negative 108 over 14. So now we have to figure out what is the biggest perfect square that goes into negative 108. Some of you came up with 4. Some of you came up with 9. But both 4 and 9 go in there, so it should be 36. Question.
How come the 7 is in the negative 8? Or did you add it to... Did you add it to... I was just ahead of that.
I did go over that.
Sorry.
That's all right. If you had a 7 that was negative, then you would have a negative 14 in the denominator as well. Did you have a negative 14 in your denominator? So then you'd have to multiply by negative 1 at some point, which would make your first number positive eventually, and the bottom positive. Well, it's 36 times 3, right? Yeah. Okay, so I just took 108, and I separated that to be square root of negative 1, square root of 36, and square root of 3. So now we have 2 plus or minus 6i square root 3 all over 14. So you have to simplify your radical. After you simplify your radical, then you see if the numerator has a number that factors out of 2 and 6, has to be both numbers, and cancels with a factor in the 14. Is there a number that comes out of 2 and 6 and factors out of 14 as well? The number 2. So we do like GCF factoring. Take out 2, we're left with 1 plus or minus 3i square root 3. And then on the bottom, 2 times 7. Then those 2's will cancel. So we have left over x equals 1 plus or minus 3i square root 3 all over 7. Now, Emmanuel, on your assignment, you put this answer in both x equals. The problem is, this is 2 answers. One of them by itself is 1 plus 3i square root 3 over 7. The other one is 1 minus 3i square root 3 over 7. You put both of them as plus minus, and that's why it was marking it wrong. So one needs to be plus, one needs to be minus, and it would have been right. Okay, so that's probably what you were doing that question. All right, so now before we go on to the next section, I know you guys can even tell me the correct answers to the next section. I know you can do it. You ready? You're going to tell me the notes before we even do it. You ready? You ready? Okay, don't even turn the page. Don't even turn the page. Just look at this last question we just did. Why is there an imaginary answer? Because there was a negative under the square root. You knew that. That's 1/3 of our lesson today. Why, let's go back an example or two. Why in example 2, was there only one answer?
Because it was so zero that
The square root is 0.
Because the square root was 0, and we couldn't add or subtract something because it was just 0. So there was only one answer. How many answers were there for the imaginary? There were 2. Let's go back to the original question we did, example 1. How many answers were there for example 1? And were they real or imaginary? Why were they real? But why is there not an imaginary number?
There's not a negative number under the square root.
Because under the square root we have what kind of number? Not a negative, but a
Positive.
positive. You guys already figured out half of our notes for today. Let's turn the page. See, that's kind of important, how many like x-intercepts we have. So it has its own name. It's fancy. It is called the discriminant. That is the thing under the square root. It's called the discriminant. It's just the thing under the square root. But it has a fancy name, the discriminant. And when I ask you to find the discriminant, you're just going to plug stuff into what part of the formula? What's the discriminant part?
the part of the square root.
What part is under the square root?
B squared minus 4AC.
Excellent. B squared minus 4AC is the thing under the square root. That is the discriminant formula. See, you memorize the song, you now know 2 things. You know the discriminant and the x-intercept formula. Here in the picture, in this core concept, is what you've already told me, because you all are smart and can figure it out. If the value of the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, is greater than 0, that means it's positive. If it's a positive number, there's 2 real solutions. Graphically, what does that look like? On our graph, 2 x-intercepts. If the value, the middle one, if the value is equal to 0, if the value of the discriminant is 0, we will have 1 x-intercept, and it will be the vertex. And if we have b squared minus 4c less than 0, if it's negative, if the discriminant is a negative number, then you will have 2 imaginary solutions. And that would mean the graph wouldn't cross the x-axis, no x-intercepts. Is there a case where we have 1 negative? Not negative. 1 imaginary solution. Do we have a 1 imaginary? No. The only way we can have 1 answer is if that number is 0. We either have 2 or 2, or right in the middle 1. 2 positive, 2 negatives, 2 imaginaries, or just 1 in the middle. You cannot have 1 of any of the other kind. So here we've got 3 examples. It says find the discriminant, and then describe the number and type of solution for the equation. So we're going to do the discriminant. You want to memorize that formula, then you write b squared minus 4ac every single time so that you memorize it. It's part of the song. B is negative 6. So we do 36 minus 4 times 1 times 10. 36 minus 40 is negative 4. Negative. That means we should have how many and what kind? How many solutions? 2. And what kind are they? Imaginary. How about the next one? Discriminant. If you don't know the formula, write it every time. B squared minus 4ac. So 36 minus 4 times 1 times 9. 36 minus 36 is 0. We should have 1. How many? What kind? Real. We will never have 1 imaginary. Never. Ever. Ever. They're always plus or minus. And the third one, b squared minus 4ac. 36 minus 4 times 1 times 8. 36 minus 32 is 4. There should be how many? And what kind? So now on the next page, there's 6 of them. You choose 3. You choose 3, there are 6. You choose 3. Favorite 3. There's 6 practice, you choose 3. Pick. Who can I have your top on? I'll pause this video real fast while you guys are working. Oops. All right, so check your solutions. Check the discriminant number and the solutions. Check both the discriminant and the solutions. And then if you're not sure how I got something, ask. If you checked yours and they look good, we're not going to do the example 5. We're going to go to the next page so you can turn the page so we're ready to go on. So solving like application questions, this is like real life stuff. People solve math equations all the time, figuring out whatever they want to figure out. And in physics, if anybody's planning on taking physics, this is used in physics a lot. There's a force on our Earth called gravity that helps us stay on the ground, pulls us down. So if I were going to let this go, would this float if I let go? No, what is it going to do? Okay, but if I walk over here and I do that exact same thing again, will it take longer or shorter or same? Why? Like I'm starting in the same place, just like letting go. It should take the same amount of time because gravity is the same no matter where we go on this earth. Gravity should be the same, right? Seem like it's about the same? How can I make this ball faster or slower? Okay, good. If I should change the height, that would affect the time. If I use force, if I throw it down, is that going to take longer or faster? Right? Throw it. How can I make it go longer? Throw it up. Right? Good. If I throw it in the air, if I have a force that sends it up, it's going to take longer to hit the ground. If I have a force that pushes it down, it's going to take less time. This force is called vertical velocity. That's what it's called, velocity. So what we have here is an equation, and this is a real-life equation that has to do with an object that is dropped on the earth. And this is for feet. If it's in meters, it looks different. And you know, like, we use feet in our country, but everybody else in the world uses meters because it's easier. But our equation is going to look like h equals negative 16t squared plus h sub 0. Now, if I put a velocity on it, if I put in a vertical velocity, which they call v sub 0, it's going to change the time. So if there's a velocity, then we have h equals negative 16t squared plus v sub 0 t plus h sub 0. So what does all of that mean? Where's my pencil? Let's see. T. We're talking about the height of an object, and we're talking about how long it takes to hit the ground. What do you think T stands for? Time. And it tells you in here somewhere. It's in seconds. And then H. Nope. Yeah, H. H is height. But there's two different H's. There's an H. There's also an H sub 0. There's also a V sub 0. So we need to know what those mean. So I'm gonna have you figure that out by giving you something from before. Remember we did the slope formula, which we're totally not using right now. I'm just bringing up a formula you've used before. It's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. What does that number down there tell us? The first x or the second x? It's telling us which one it is. So the same thing is for a 0 down here. It's just telling us which one it is. So here, this is going to be the height. At time equals 0, or this, we would call this the initial height. I spelled it wrong. The initial height, the starting height, our first height. And then v sub 0 is going to be the initial velocity, and it's going to be the only velocity that we use for this. So it's the velocity that happens right when I start, or when I throw that box. And then there's another thing that it does talk about velocity, where down here these three pictures that are a little bit hard to see, they're in color in your book. But the velocity, if it is greater than 0, if the velocity is positive, and here's an example of where the velocity would be positive. Somebody's hitting a golf ball and it's going up. If the velocity is positive, the object is thrown up. If the velocity is less than 0, so if the velocity is negative, then the object is going down. And this picture is somebody spiking a volleyball. Okay, the object is being hit down. And then in this picture, somebody's using archery, like to shoot an arrow. So the velocity would equal 0. So then it would just be let go. Okay? So we have an example, and I would encourage you to draw a picture. The picture does not have to be as amazing as my picture is about to be. You know, you don't have to be an AP art student. But I would encourage you to draw a picture so you understand what you're finding and what it means. Here we have a juggler. Okay, there's my juggler. Oh, here. There's my juggler. And the juggler is tossing a ball into the air. The ball leaves the juggler's hand 4 feet above the ground. So here's the ball. Shading in that ball. Okay. And it's leaving the juggler's hand 4 feet above the ground. And then it has an initial velocity of 30 feet per second. That's how fast he threw it. The juggler catches the ball when it falls back to a height of 3 feet. So he's going to go over here. He's going to catch the ball at a height of 3 feet. Juggler throws it 4 feet, catches it 3 feet. We need to know how long is the ball up in the air. So we need to know the time the ball is up in the air. So I'm going to use this formula that we were just given. H equals negative 16t squared. Do we need the velocity part? Did they tell us it was velocity? Or did he just drop the ball? He's throwing it, right? So plus we're going to have our velocity, v sub 0, multiplied by t, which you'll notice that my t's are like curly because I want to know that it's a t, not a plus sign, or vice versa. Plus h sub 0. So h sub 0 is the initial height. Which of these two heights is the first height? The 4. So that means the new height is 3. And then our velocity is 30. And since he's throwing it up in the air, it's a positive 30. And then we have to solve for the time. We have to put the time that it's up in the air. So I need to solve for t. Gosh, we just learned a way to solve for t. What was that called? Quadratic formula. To do quadratic formula, though, I can't do it here. What is wrong? Why can't I do quadratic formula yet? Has to equal 0. So I'll go ahead and subtract that 3. So now we have equal 0. And Edwin's going to sing this song? Okay. We got to look it up? You can look it up.
X equals negative opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2.
Good. All right, so we know our formula. If you don't have it memorized, maybe writing it every time would help you. And singing that song. So what we're going to do, x equals opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I've plugged in all my information. And then we're going to simplify underneath our radical. So here, maybe you want your calculator. We are going to do something on the calculator in a moment. It's not out. You probably want your calculator in a moment. I forget what the number is. Okay, so I get to negative 30 plus or minus square root 964 all over negative 32. I go through my 3 steps of simplifying. First step is, should we simplify anything with that radical? Or can we simplify the radical? The square root 964. So that perfect square, you guys know? Maybe once your calculator start dividing, 964 divided by what? I need a perfect square.
I think it's just 4.
4 goes in it 241 times. So we're going to rewrite this as negative 30 plus or minus 2 square root 241 all over negative 32. Is that the most simplified version? No? Why? Because there's a negative in the denominator. We can't leave a negative in the denominator. So we will multiply the numerator and the denominator by negative 1 over negative 1. So now we have positive 30 plus or minus 2 square root 241 all over 32. Is that the most simplified final answer?
No.
You can factor out a number from the numerator. What number? Okay, so we're going to take out that 2. It's going to factor out of the 30 and out of the 2 radical 241. So we'll have 15 plus or minus radical 241 all over 2 times what number? 16. Makes the 2's cancel. And I get 15 plus or minus square root 241 all over 16. What was I finding again? Time that what? The ball is in the air. If I asked you what time the ball was in the air, would you honestly give me an answer like, oh, that was 15 plus or minus square root of 241 divided by 16 seconds? Would you ever give me an answer like that in real life? Real life, not in math class, real life. No. I don't want an answer that looks like this. Haha, made you do all this work for a reason. This is a real life application. We want a real life answer. What kind of sample answer could you give me? It doesn't have to be this answer. What sample answers would you give me for the number of seconds the ball was in the air?
3 seconds.
Sure, but what if it doesn't come out exactly as 3? Maybe 3.429 or something? Like, maybe a decimal? I mean, 3.5 seconds? But you would never give me an answer like this, ever. So how are you going to find the real life application answer from this? How would we find the real life answer for that? You're going to type it in, you're going to find a decimal. So this is why I said you're going to need a calculator today. So if you have the fraction on your calculator, alpha y equals, or if I just updated your software, alpha and then the button next to it, x. First column, the second one. Enter. Oh, well, enter. So if you have the square, if you have the fractions, go ahead and type it in. But you can't type in plus and minus. You're gonna have to type in plus separate than minus. If you don't have the fraction button, then you're gonna have to type it in the way I did the third one. But again, you're gonna have to type in 1 plus and 1 minus. And you look at my answers. Tell me something about my 2 different answers. Can you have negative seconds?
No.
So you're going to have to reject that second answer, and the only answer is 1.9 seconds. All in your homework. It is on the Big Ideas Online. So some of them are going to be like that, where you have to reject an answer that makes no sense. And then some of them are just finding the discriminant. Okay? Big Ideas Online. You got 10 minutes. You won't be late. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.